This is the year, guys. This is the year that you are going to have the best yard you've ever had in your entire life. Maybe you need to repair or fix an ugly lawn that you have neglected over the years. Maybe you have never tended to a yard before. Maybe your yard is pretty good, but you want it to be better. This video is for you. I'm going to go into everything that you need to know about making your lawn the best it can possibly be this year. As you can tell, this is winter while I'm recording this. It's late February. Late February, depending on where you live, probably means that you are either just barely starting to experience spring if you live way down south, or you might be a good 5 to 6 weeks away from feeling real spring weather. Regardless of your situation, this is the time right now to really start planning for the season. If you do your planning now, you can get a jump start on the season and have the best opportunity possible at fixing that lawn, at improving that lawn, at having the best lawn on your block. The plan here today will be to break this video down into two parts. The first part will be the basics. It will be very short, very sweet, very simple. The second part of this video is going to be much more in-depth, and I'm going to go into some advanced topics and talk about some products that not just anybody normally buys. These will be advanced things and not necessarily going to go in order of what you do from 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to go in order of advanced techniques. Down in the description below, you're going to find a link over to my website. In that link, I summarize every single thing that I talk about in this video in order of, step 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way through. Make sure to take a look at that after you watch this video. All right, now let's jump into the most elementary topics possible to start this video off: mowing and watering. If there's one thing that subscribers of this channel know about me already, is that I love mowing the lawn. I review lawnmowers, I compare lawnmowers, I'm out in the lawn mowing the grass all the time for a couple main reasons. One, I enjoy it, and two, it is just about the healthiest thing I can possibly do to my lawn. Lawns that are mowed regularly tend to suppress weeds because weeds don't like to be cut down all the time. Although mowing will kill the weed, it will suppress its growth and it will slow its seeding process down, meaning in subsequent years, your lawn is going to have fewer weeds simply because you cut it frequently. What I recommend to beginners is decide if you want to mow your lawn once a week regularly, like without ever skipping a week, or if you want to mow your grass twice a week, then that is going to dictate the height setting that you put on your lawnmower. People who mow the lawn twice a week can get away with a shorter cut lawn. I prefer a shorter cut lawn because, as you see the slide back there, I have small kids. When there's a shortcut lawn, kids don't trip on the grass. We don't lose toys in the middle of the grass. If you want a longer lawn, or maybe you don't want to commit to cutting the lawn twice a week, then you have to put that mower setting on a higher setting and get it every single week. Now, there's more to watering a lawn than most people realize. Yeah, we got to put water on the lawn regularly, but you can't just put your sprinkler on for 20 minutes a day, 3 times a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 20 minutes is just not going to cut it. Virtually every lawn professional out there is going to tell you that you need to do deep watering. You need to get a full inch of water down for your turf every single week. Now, in the springtime, you might be able to get away with about 3/4 of an inch, but in the summertime, you might need 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches every single week. That can be an extremely long watering session, depending on your sprinkler heads. Before you figure out your watering schedule, you need to figure out how much water your sprinkler heads put out, or your sprinkler, whether you're using an impact or oscillating, whatever the sprinkler is, you need to figure out how much water is going on the lawn. Stick some sort of can in the lawn and measure it. Once you figure out how much time it takes to put a full inch of water down onto the lawn, then start setting your sprinklers or your sprinkler patterns to allow for a full inch of water to go onto the lawn one time every single week. If your sprinkler system goes off more than once or twice a week, then you're going to have an excessive amount of evaporation, and you're not going to be encouraging those roots from your grass plants to start digging deeper into the ground. When you put a full inch of water down all at once, then the water is going to saturate deeper and deeper into the ground than if you spread it out over the course of a week. Again, this needs to be adjusted based on your rainfall. So if you're getting a lot of rain one week, you need to dial it back. If you're particularly dry and hot another week, you might need to up it a little bit. For me, this requires a few hours of sprinkler time for every zone that I run on my sprinkler system. Now, there are products out there that you can buy that can limit your water usage. So if you don't feel comfortable putting so much water down, in the advanced section of this video a little bit later on, and linked down below in the description, you'll see references to some products that I use and that I recommend for lowering your water responsibility. Now, with all of that simple stuff out of the way, you know, the mowing and the watering and whatnot, let's summarize all of the other basic things that you could be doing this spring to give yourself a leg up on the season. You want to have the best lawn possible. Let's start with the simple stuff first. Before the winter ends, late February, early March, depending on where you live, maybe even late March, you need to resist the urge to fertilize, dethatch, or apply pre-emergents to your lawn, weed preventers to your lawn before your lawn wakes up, before it properly wakes up. Most lawns late in winter and even in early spring are still dormant. This time is not acceptable for any of those things. You'll probably be able to get away with fertilizing once the temperatures are in the 45-degree zone, but as for pre-emergence, you probably want to wait till soil temperatures are all the way up close to 50 and above before you apply them. These are the weed preventers. These are the products that people put down to stop weeds from invading their lawn later in the season. There are actually a number of caveats to all of this and a lot more detail. Don't worry, I'll get into it a little bit later in this video. In actuality, the very first thing you need to do in the spring to set yourself up for a better season is to wake your lawn up. You can get your lawn to waking up a little bit earlier than most people on your block by doing some simple things. First of all, just taking a simple garden rake to your lawn to kind of fluff up those grass blades and get them standing upright will go a long way towards introducing airflow into the turf and allowing sunlight to hit the ground and kind of warm things up just ever so slightly, a little bit faster. It will get rid of any snow mold, if any is present, and it will set yourself up for the next things to do. Just before your grass starts waking up, I recommend aerating the lawn. This allows air to get down deep into the soil. It allows your watering and fertilizers that come later to get down deep into the soil, warm things up, and get to the root zone fast and efficiently. You can aerate through a manual, liquid, or mechanical means, or you can do all three. I personally do a little bit of all three. After mechanical or manual aeration, I recommend that you apply humic acid to your lawn, micronutrients, and a little bit of liquid iron. The liquid iron and the micros will help green up the lawn a little bit, and the humic acid will allow for nutrition to enter the leaf blade a little bit more, or the root system a little bit more efficiently. We don't necessarily want to fertilize with the macronutrients, the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, because the lawn it's been storing those things for a while and it's not ready to grow vigorously. The spring flush will come on its own. Additionally, in the early spring, you should be focused on your lawnmower. If you don't have a lawnmower, go get a good one. If you have an existing lawnmower, make sure to get that lawnmower blade pulled off and sharpen it. Sharp blades are going to make mowing the lawn easier and more enjoyable, but they are also going to help your lawn fend off disease. Later in the season, lawns that are cut with mowers with dull blades are more prone to disease and fungal infection than lawns that are mowed with sharp blades. Sharp blades cut the grass so that they don't fray on the top, and when they do not fray on the top, then they are less prone, less susceptible to fungal infection. The other main point to bring up here is weed prevention. I've mentioned it already once. Weed prevention is called pre-emergent in the lawn care circles. You're going to go out and apply a weed preventer, a pre-emergent to the lawn. Usually this is a grassy weed preventer. It's going to go down on the lawn when the soil temperatures are somewhere around 50 degrees. This can be purchased over the counter over at like Home Depot, Walmart, your local supermarket, depending on how big it is. Typical pre-emergents don't cost very much and they're fairly easy to come by. The better pre-emergents do last a little bit longer and they are packaged a little bit nicer. They are worth upgrading to because they don't cost particularly much more. Prodiamine is the most common pre-emergent used, in my opinion, all across the United States. prodiamine is found in many different products, so look for it. Or you could use pendimethalin, because I do use that sometimes as well. As I mentioned before in the video, watering is key. In the spring, you don't usually need quite as much water as you do in the summer, but make sure that a full inch of water is getting on your lawn every week. If most of that water is going on your lawn due to your sprinkler system, make sure that your sprinkler is actually putting that water down about once a week, a full inch of water once a week. You could split it into 2 watering sessions, let's say like a Wednesday and a Sunday kind of a thing. I prefer to sprinkle 1 time a week. That encourages the water to go as deep as possible into the ground and encourages those roots to dig down looking for it. Lots of people want to fertilize in the spring. In the very early spring, you don't necessarily need to, mostly because the root systems have been restoring or reserving energy, reserving nutrients through the winter for the spring flush. This is a natural phenomenon. You don't need fast release nitrogen or any fertilizers in the early spring. I do, however, recommend putting down a very slow release organic fertilizer in the spring so that it will feed the lawn all the way through the spring. Milorganite is the obvious choice. There are alternatives. I'm going to have a full video about alternatives to Milorganite later in the season. I hope that you'll watch those when they come out. As spring really gets going, regardless of your input, your grass and the weeds therein are going to start going nuts all on their own. You don't have to worry about that, but you do have to worry about cutting it all down. With your sharp mower blade, make sure to get out there and mow that grass 2 times a week through the spring. I know earlier in this video I talked about mowing once a week if you're going to do a tall cut grass. In the spring, because things grow so fast, I really do recommend everyone mow twice a week during that growth phase. It is the fastest growth phase of the year, at least for cool season grasses. Of course, if you're in the south using a warm season grass, you're probably going to see your most vigorous growth in the summer. Most people, however, who are running cool season grasses are going to find the most vigorous growth in the spring. Regardless of your mowing height, mow it twice a week. As things slow down, as summer starts approaching, then you can dial it back if you've got a tall cut grass. If you've got a short cut grass, then continue mowing it twice a week. Your lawn will perform better if you do that. There are caveats to this, however. Later in this video, I'm going to go into them. And again, down in the description, you can take a look at the blog post over on my website where I've got all of those caveats, or at least most of them, summarized out. After the grass has been growing for a few weeks, at this point, after you've done a couple mows, this is when I like to recommend people pull out their aeration products, the liquid aeration, not the mechanical, not the manual. You've already done those. Pull out the liquid aeration products and spray those things down onto the ground. They stimulate microbial life. The mechanical and manual stuff actually puncture cores into the ground to allow physical pathways down into the subsoil. The mechanical aeration starts stimulating biological life in the soil and allows for different mechanisms to take place to open up pathways for air and water and nutrient flow. Liquid aeration is a very powerful tool in the shed, and certain products out there even include sea kelp in it. It's the product that I use. I'll link to it down below, and maybe there will be another video on it as well. But the sea kelp helps for roots to penetrate deeper into the ground. Lots of aeration products will help that happen. The sea kelp makes it, just juices it a little bit more. So not every liquid aeration product is going to have that. If you can find one, that's a pretty good one to grab. Dethatching is another thing that people want to do in the spring. Some people want to do it in the late winter, but I recommend people wait until grass is growing vigorously in the spring, especially if you're using mechanical. When you're doing mechanical thatch removal or just using a manual thatch rake, it is really aggressive and it is really destructive to the lawn. Manual thatch rakes are really good for pulling off the surface thatch or the surface debris that has collected. Mechanical thatch rakes and scarifiers can dig deeper and rip into the ground. They'll cut roots, they'll cut stolons, they'll cut rhizomes. Your grass has to be vigorously growing to deal with that stress. It is good for the grass in the long run, but if you do it too early in the season, especially when that grass is more dormant than alive, more dormant than growing, then it is going to be detrimental. Mid-spring is the best time to do a dethatching. And for me, I actually prefer liquid dethatching over manual dethatching or mechanical, simply because the liquid dethatch products are designed to work over time and they do not destroy anything in the lawn. They literally, their entire purpose is to compost what is in the lawn so that you don't have to rip the lawn up with a machine. Later in the spring, this is something you don't have to worry about in the month of February, March, and April, but later in the spring, more in the May and June timeframe, this is when you're going to be putting down your grub preventer product. Most people put down Scott's Grub X. There are others out there. They will prevent grubs because grub season, you don't see the damage from grubs until the fall usually. As grubs kind of come late in the spring, they start growing in the summer, they start eating the grass root system. And by fall, the grass starts dying. So what we want to do is we want to prevent that problem from happening before it starts. Additionally, in the mid to late spring, this is when I start recommending the liquid dethatching products. And I also know that lots of people want to put down preventative rates of fungicide, especially for those large or tall cut lawns, tall fescues and whatnot. Fungus can be a problem mid to late summer into early fall. There are ways to prevent that naturally. Those are the ones that I prefer. Usually fungicides are not put down early in the spring. They will be put down in the summer if you choose to go that route. Later on this year, you'll see some videos from me coming out about natural ways to prevent fungus from infesting your lawn. Most of that has to do with preparing your lawn adequately for drought and heat tolerance and for good mowing practices, but we'll get to that in a future video. Now, for a summary, that's an awful lot of information. I'm gonna go sit down on the table over there, and we're going to talk a little bit more at length about many of these concepts so that you understand a little bit more, and maybe I'll throw in some of those caveats that I mentioned already. Now, before we get into the concept of seeding, because this is something that lots of people are tempted to do in the spring, I need to say right off the bat, seeding in the spring, whether you're in the south or the north, isn't the best idea. Now, there's certainly ways that you can do it in both northern climates and southern climates with northern grasses and southern grasses, but almost across the board, the best idea usually is to heavily fertilize a lawn, even if it's a really terrible looking lawn, and apply a pre-emergent. So the pre-emergent is going to stop weeds from establishing itself or growing throughout the spring and the summer, and the fertilizer is going to juice the existing grass that's there. So whatever grass is there, even if it's just a little bit, it's going to really do well all the way through the spring into the summer. And then towards the end of the summer, that's when you're going to go ahead and put the seed down. So at that point, you're going to find the actual bare spots in your lawn and seed there. For one, it's going to be much easier for the seed to establish. There's not going to be weeds there because of the pre-emergence for that grass to compete with. And it's going to have ample time to prepare itself for the winter, because even as the air temperatures outside drop through the fall, the soil temperatures are still warm enough, because we're coming out of summer. They're going to be warm enough to support the root system as it deepens and it matures all the way into November. For southern climates running warm season grasses, the best time to seed really is in the spring. However, you're still going to be dealing with the weeds, and it's just not the best idea. There are better alternatives. I'm going to go into this in more detail for both cold and warm season grasses in another video about seeding a lawn. For the time being, even though this is a lengthy monster video, seeding is out of the scope of this one. Now let's just take a little bit more time here to go into a little bit more detail, a little bit more nitty gritty onto the topic of fertilization. Now, the reason that we don't fertilize the lawn first thing in the spring is simply because that is the natural process of grass. Over the course of the winter, the grass goes dormant. It pulls all of that energy into its root system and it holds it there. And basically it just waits. It's like hibernate. It's like a hibernating bear. It's waiting for the spring to come. Once spring comes, once the weather conditions are ripe, it starts sending all of that energy out of the root system into the plant itself for the vigorous spring growth. Now, everybody on your block is going to have vigorous spring growth, whether they notice the grass on their lawn or not. It doesn't take any special talent or knowledge to have your grass growing in the early spring. It just happens naturally. For that reason, we don't fertilize. However, earlier in this video, I did say that I do recommend putting down a fertilizer app of miners plus liquid iron plus humic acid. And I prefer to do that in the very early spring. And although the miners is considered fertilization to some extent, none of the miners contain nitrogen, potassium, or phosphorus, the major NPK nutrients. The miners, especially manganese and magnesium, aid in chlorophyll and photosynthesis, and iron aids in the production of chlorophyll in the plant. So basically what I'm saying is the humic acid allows for those miners to uptake into the plant more efficiently, especially in the early spring when the plant is still semi-dormant. And then those miners aid in the photosynthesis caused by the chlorophyll production of the iron. And all of these things work together. Basically, we want the grass to green up a little bit, but nitrogen pushes growth and we don't want to add nitrogen. We don't usually need to add phosphorus. Phosphorus is for root growth, and it's needed. It's probably the third in line when it comes to the macronutrients, and it's also the most dangerous for the environment to over-apply phosphorus. Potassium, however, is another nutrient that works really, really well for the grass's immune system. Potassium helps that grass fend off cold, disease, and wear, and all of the stresses that are put on heat and drought. If a grass plant has adequate potassium in it, it can fend off and defend itself against stressors better. But high levels of potassium have a negative correlation with the uptake of all of these nutrients that help in the early spring chlorophyll and photosynthesis and green up. So I don't want to add those either. We're going to reserve that for later. Now, getting the timing right on all of these spring fertilizer applications is very important. Depending on where you live, the vast majority of people across this country are going to be experiencing dormant spring grass, except for maybe the very, very southern tips of California and Arizona and Texas, Florida, places like that. Most of the grass types there will even go dormant if soil temperatures drop below 55 degrees. Your Bermudas and your St. Augustines and whatnot, they'll all go dormant. The only warm season grass that really won't try to go dormant is centipede. Centipede is kind of in a grass category all to itself. Also, centipede doesn't require very much nutrition in terms of fertilization, so I'm going to reserve some centipede talk for another video down the road. Because most grass types are going to be dormant coming out of winter, you can't put down fertilizer, even the micronutrients, when the soil is too cold. It doesn't even have to be frozen. So when the soil temperature is too cold for your grass type, the grass root system is not going to be uptaking any of the nutrients. And that's why getting your lawn to wake up earlier is so important. And one of the main ways to do that is to core aerate your lawn. Core aerating your lawn is going to introduce a warmer spring or late winter air into the soil surface, and it's going to slowly warm up the depths of your soil where the root zone is. Once those roots are able to start waking up, then we can start greening them up with these micronutrients and liquid iron applications. I got an entire video about waking your lawn up after winter. Make sure to watch that. Now, having said all of that, getting the spring fertilization going is going to be, the elementary way of doing it is you just don't fertilize, because in the spring, everything's going to green up and start growing naturally. However, there are things that we can do, and getting the timing right is appropriate. I believe putting down organic fertilizers in the early spring is worthwhile, because in the early spring, microbial life isn't going to be breaking down those organic fertilizers quite yet. So they will sit there and slowly break down, and then as mid-spring rolls around, that's when the nutrition is going to start going into the plant. It's the same reason why we end up putting down liquid aeration products and liquid dethatching products later in the spring, because we have to wait for the soil biological life to really get active again. Most fertilizer applications in the spring should be lower on the nitrogen, just across the board. Most of them should be lower in nitrogen than you're going to be putting down in the fall. However, the spring is a very good time to be putting down potassium into the lawn. Potassium is going to help your plant, help your grass plants resist the stresses of summer. However, many plants, many lawns across the country, even within your own neighborhood, are going to be deficient in certain nutrients, and they might have excesses of others. And that's why, for the advanced people out there, that's why you end up doing soil tests. Now, I think the most important thing to do is to do a soil pH test, and you can usually get a pretty good indication of your soil pH just by running down to your local store and picking up one of those little pH test kits that they don't cost more than $10 or so. These are more substantial kits. This is the one that Sunday provides, Sunday Lawn Care. They're a subscription lawn care product company. They're actually perfect for beginners, people who want to have a good lawn, but they don't really want to go out and buy a ton of products. You get a soil test kit free of charge when you sign up for them. This is the Yard Mastery soil test kit. This is going to be a more substantial thing than the regular pH kits as well. In fact, I've got a video coming out very soon where I'm comparing 7 of the most popular soil test kits of them all. I want to figure out which one is the best and which one, I don't know, which one is the best for different circumstances. Those soil tests are right there on my table, so they're not done yet. When the video is available, when my results are available, I'm going to put the link to that down in the description below, so you can go ahead and take a look at that. But point being here is, in the spring or the end of winter, if you really want to get granular and try to have the best lawn you possibly can, like totally possibly ever, you need to do a soil test, full soil test analysis, to find out what kinds of nutritional deficiencies you have in your lawn and what you have excess of. Because when you're choosing fertilizers for later in the spring, when your lawn is able to absorb all those fertilizers, you don't want to be putting stuff down that contain nutrients that you already have an abundance of. Also, similarly, or on the flip side, or however you want to say it, you definitely want to emphasize putting down fertilizers that include nutrients that your lawn is deficient in. Some of these soil test kits are going to provide you even more information than others, in terms of, it might give you have X amount of this nutrient. Some of them are going to tell you have X amount available, plant available of this nutrient, and then you also have this amount of this nutrient that is plant unavailable. That is golden information. For instance, iron is one of those nutrients that soils everywhere usually have a ton of, but yet we still fertilize with iron, because most of the iron that's in the soil is plant unavailable. That's just one example. Most of the nutrients really do have something like that going on with them. They're just less obvious, less noticeable. You're also going to find that a lot of springtime fertilizers, some of these things that do include potassium, they might include nitrogen. If you go the Sunday route, a lot of the nitrogen that's in their products is urea or other kind of quick release stuff. Some of those things are less ideal for the spring, in my opinion. So just be aware of that. Now, even urea, now I have an entire video about urea nitrogen. You're going to find that in a ton of products, and you're also going to find urea in a variety of forms in a ton of different products. But urea, just generally speaking, needs microbial life as well. You're going to find a lot of things that go on in the lawn need the microbial life to be active to work properly. Now, sometimes one of the things that I'll be doing this spring is starting some work on soil pH correction. My pH is not bad. It's somewhere around like 6.8. I would prefer it to be down closer to 6.5. So the springtime is another time that you can go and put product down onto your lawn to correct soil pH. Common things that are done is the application of lime to take an acidic soil and make it more basic. And on the flip side, lots of people will put down elemental sulfur to drop the pH. Now, there are also acidifying fertilizers. A lot of those fall into the synthetic fertilizer category. And so, for instance, I don't particularly care for synthetic fertilizers, and I don't particularly care for fast release fertilizers, but I do know that some synthetic fertilizers can acidify the lawn a little bit quicker than sulfur can. So I'm going to be putting down a small dose of synthetic fertilizer, acidifying fertilizer, down onto my lawn to kind of help jumpstart the acidifying process of my soil. Again, the soil pH test or the full soil analysis are going to give you an idea of what your soil pH is. You're going to find that most nutrients for grass are most available kind of in that 6.3, 6.4, 6.5 range. Now, you're going to be fine when you're up at 6.8, 6.9. Optimal, though, is going to be a little bit lower than 6.5, and that's what I want to get to. I'm not going to really go overboard trying to get it there all in one season, but just moving the needle ever so slightly down is going to benefit me in the long run. Just do a little bit at a time. So I'm going to do that. There are other acidifying products that you can put down, as well as alkaline products that you can put down. Peat moss, for instance, is an organic product, which I love my organic products. It's a little bit hard to spread on a lawn, but over time, the peat moss will slowly acidify your lawn if you can get it down on there. So that's something that I'm spitballing doing myself. If you don't have any idea what pH really does for your lawn, make sure to watch my soil pH test video where I compare the rapid test options. That should give you a good idea as to why. As I've already said a couple times, so many things in the lawn hinge on microbial life and soil temperatures. Weeds are something that I mentioned earlier in this video, kind of in summary. I have an entire video, I have two videos, one entire video on preventing weeds later in the year by taking action in the spring. I have a second video all about dandelion prevention. These are two different topics. Even though dandelions are considered to be a weed, the plan of attack, the plan of dealing with dandelions is different from typical grassy weeds. Definitely make sure to watch those videos because there is a ton of information in them. To summarize those videos for this beast of a guide, however, I will say that over-the-counter, like the cheap over-the-counter products that you're going to find at places like Walmart and Home Depot and your grocery store and wherever it is that you go, I mean, you're going to be finding products from like Scott's. Scott's uses pendimethalin in a lot of their products. Now, Scott's products aren't very expensive. They're affordable and they do work. The thing is, pendimethalin doesn't have as long a lasting effect as some of the other active ingredients in some other products. So earlier in this video, I said that there are some, let's call them top shelf products that cost a little bit more. You kind of got to read the label to find the ingredients. Anything that uses prodiamine is going to give you a longer lasting effect on the lawn, and you're going to be able to put a smaller, like physical quantity of material onto the ground to get that effect. It's the active ingredient that most professionals and DIY lawn care enthusiasts use and swear by. So it's kind of like the gold standard. There are other products out there that are going to do similar sorts of things. If you want to go the full organic route, which is something that I'm going to be experimenting with this year, I am going to use a little bit of prodiamine from the Anderson's company. Again, you could take a look at my weed prevention video to find out more about it. But I'm going to be putting down a small dose of that, but a little bit later in the year, I'm going to be putting down a fully organic version of weed prevention. It's going to be a corn gluten meal product. This is something that you're not really going to find. You're not likely to find this on regular store shelves in town. This is kind of something you got to go out of your way. You can get it at Home Depot, but at least my Home Depot, I have to go up to the desk and like order it, and so it's still like shopping online. But it is an organic option, so you're not putting chemicals down on the ground. It's a very specific product. I'm going to have an entire video about corn gluten meal for weed prevention later this year when it comes time to put that product down, or a little bit in advance. There is an enormous amount of things to say about weed prevention, like seriously, an enormous amount. As per dandelions, all of these weed prevention products are going to stop the seed germination of baby, like brand new dandelion plants. But the fact of the matter is, dandelions. My arm is getting tired. I'm starting to shake. Dandelions are perennials. So once a dandelion plant establishes, if it's really established, it can bloom a couple times a year. But certainly, even if it only blooms once a year, it's going to come back the next year. Dandelions can live for over a decade if we don't do anything to them. So these weed pre-emergence, they stop the rooting process, and they're not going to stop the rooting process of an established dandelion because it has already rooted. So dealing with those is a completely different activity. I have a lengthy video on it. Please go watch that if that is relevant to you and your lawn. At the end of winter and the early spring, you're not going to have to worry about grubs. You should know that grubs will be coming. I mean, they won't be coming for everybody, but they will have the opportunity of coming later in the year for most people. That opportunity exists. You don't do anything about them in the months of March and April. Now, there are a couple different kinds. There's multiple kinds of grub prevention products out there. Some of them you're going to be applying later in the spring, almost to early summer, like near the end of June. Other products, depending on what ingredients are used in it, are going to be put down closer to May. So you're going to have to read the label of your bag to understand what product you're putting down so that you get the timing right. Now, this is another topic that is not relevant for the early spring, so there will be more videos coming out on this channel having to do with grub prevention and the life cycle of grubs and why we care, why we want to prevent them in the first place. Those will be coming on this channel later in the year. At this point, I feel like I've rambled on long enough. This is a meaty video with an enormous amount of information, and no matter how much information I put into it, I am still glazing over the top of every single topic. Every single one of these concepts and topics that I'm talking about, I could talk for 20, 30 minutes on just the one topic, and that's why I've got multiple videos on this channel. If you're new to the Turf Mechanic brand, to this channel, or maybe the Turf Mechanic website, I hope that you hit that subscribe button and watch for more. I have a ton of videos on all of these things on the channel, and there are more coming out all the time. My entire mission, I mean, this is my business, of course, you know, I want to pay the bills and all, but my mission is to really educate you and get you taking care of your lawn intelligently and with purpose. I want you to feel confident in the decisions that you're making and the products that you're buying. I don't recommend people to buy products for the sake of buying products, but they certainly do help out. So if you want to take it up one more notch, then there are products to buy. Last point, since I brought this up really early in the video, is having to do with watering. Now, I tell people on my channel that I prefer watering once a week, very, very deep. Now, that is contrary to what lots of other professionals and enthusiasts, experienced enthusiasts will tell you. They say a couple times a week. I prefer once. And the reason for that is it forces water to go deep into the ground. If you're putting a ton of water down all at once, it has to go down. And when it goes down, the roots of your grass have to chase it down. Otherwise, they'll start drying out. Now, I prefer doing lots and lots, whatever I can, to push root growth down. So there are specialty products that kind of fall into the fertilizer category, but they don't include NPK or even micronutrients in some cases. There are products that I use to stimulate root growth. They usually include ingredients like sea kelp. I've got from the Green County Fertilizer line, RGS, root growth stimulant. You can buy straight sea kelp based products. I'm experimenting with some new product lines this coming year. I'm going to be putting out an entire video on stimulating root growth without over applying phosphorus. I encourage you, if that video is out, to take a look at that one as well. Now, I understand I've encouraged you to watch a million videos already, but there's a ton to learn and understand. If watering is a problem for you and you don't want to be able to, or you can't water that much or that deeply, there are products called Hydratane out there, and some other related products that allow you to kind of get the same effect of a heavy watering, so long as you put these products down on the ground. Hydratane is a product that can't be purchased in all states, so you'll have to take a look at that. I get my Hydratane when I can over on the Yard Mastery website, although I think there are a few other places that you can get it. Again, this is fodder for another video down the road. These are very specialty kinds of things. I hope you found a lot helpful in this video, because I tried to jam pack it with an abundance of information. Please hit that like button if you did find this helpful, and please go down into the description, because there's going to be links to a lot of in-depth videos of things that I kind of glazed over in this video. Thank you very much for watching. Share this video with someone else, and I hope to see you in the comments, and I hope to see you in another video down the road.